وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. For those of you that attended Salat al-Jum'ah, as I was descending from the minbar after my khutbah, just about to start the salah, I looked at my phone and I received a message that Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Hafidahullah Ta'ala, who is imprisoned, has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And subhanAllah, a few weeks ago, there was an image that came out of a growth on his face. And of course, he'd been neglected in prison. He spends quite a bit of time in solitary confinement. And they drag their feet just like with everything else to get him treatment, which is the case with most of our high-profile Muslim prisoners. Now I want to actually, subhanAllah, start from this place and talk a little bit about this. I called his son, Khairi Al-Amin, right after Salat al-Jum'ah. And this is a man whose entire adult life, I want you to just think about this, his entire adult life has been fighting for his father's freedom. His entire adult life. From the moment he's hit puberty until now, he's been fighting for his father's freedom. And you have a conviction, you have a confession of a man who says that he committed the crime that Imam Jamil has been in prison for. He's confessed multiple times. And the state of Georgia has not done anything. No one has moved on actually reopening the case and freeing Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And I want to tell you before I start my topic today, because a lot of times, we talk about some of the things that our community doesn't do. But I want you to know that the way that you as a community made him feel when he came, for that program that we did for Imam Jamil last year, which was the biggest program that I've seen in this masjid outside of Ramadan, subhanAllah, has endeared him to this community and endeared this community to him and to Imam Jamil since then. And so I want you to know that I'm extremely proud of this community and how it responded to that program. And alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, whether it's with Dr. Afia Siddiqui and going out to protest for Dr. Afia, yes, we can do better. But the programs in this masjid, the program for Imam Jamil, may Allah bless you all who have actually stayed the course for these people. Many of you have been following the Ramadan series. Salaam Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 2 days before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes her soul from this earth, I pray that sick as well spoke about hostages and the humanity. Many of you might remember the scenes in Syria when, actually the two hardest episodes I've ever recorded in my life for Ramadan. Sorry, you have a confession of a man who says that he committed the crime that Imam Jamil has been in prison for. He's confessed multiple times, and the state of Georgia has not done anything. No one has moved on actually reopening the case and freeing Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And I want to tell you before I start
my bad, family, when I clicked there, but we're going to watch
today,
this
because a lot of times, you know, we talk about some of the things that our community doesn't do. But I want you to know that the way that you as a community made him feel when he came, for that program that we did for Imam Jamil last year, which was the biggest program that I've seen in this masjid outside of Ramadan, subhanAllah, has endeared him to this community and endeared this community to him and to Imam Jamil since then. And so I want you to know that I'm extremely proud of this community and how it responded to that program. And alhamdulillah, Al-Amin, whether it's with Dr. Afia Siddiqui and going out to protest for Dr. Afia, yes, we can do better. But the programs in this masjid, the program for Imam Jamil, may Allah bless you all who have actually stayed the course for these people. Many of you have been following the Ramadan series that I've been doing, and it's called The Other Side. And we're talking about the barzakh. And subhanAllah, the next two episodes, for those of you that are following along, are actually the two hardest episodes I've ever recorded in my life for a Ramadan series, because we talk about the state of the shuhada as they are right now, and the state of the tyrants as they are right now, and the state of the innocent children as they are right now in the barzakh. But here's the thing. Those people have passed. They are solely in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, and the only thing we can do is make dua for them as they've passed away. But many of you might remember the scenes in Syria when some of those prisoners, and when I was watching those scenes, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may He cure those people of the trauma that they've been through. People for 50, 60 years that were under the ground, subhanAllah, in these torture chambers. And imagine, people are having weddings above the surface. People are walking, building schools, going about their lives, and they don't realize that right under them, there are torture chambers where the sickest forms of torture are taking place. When we see right now our Palestinian hostages, by the way, we should stop calling them prisoners. And as this sick administration and the administration prior being sick as well spoke about hostages and the humanity of the other side of hostages, but our hostages never get any recognition whatsoever. We have to remind the American public and beyond that we have thousands of hostages that are being held by this cruel Zionist entity, and they are mistreated in ways that every human rights organization has documented at this point, whether it is rape or it is, people even raped to death on camera, whether it is people that are coming out of these dungeons that were taken as children and now 50, 60 years coming out. SubhanAllah, you have to imagine how much of these people is still alive at this point with everything that they've been through. And the reason why I start with that is because when we talk about our political prisoners, hostages of the American Muslim community, whether it's Dr. Afia Siddiqui, or it's Imam Jamil Al-Amin, or it's Shukri Abu Bakr, or it's Ghassan Al-Ashi, what right does a community have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help if we abandon these people while they're still alive in our midst?
And we're going to pause right there, family. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all a peace of love and no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a hell of haters up in here. We got a hell of haters up in here, family. Now look here. You know, when you go live, right? You're live, so you're bound to make mistakes. You know, you see me anyways, man. You know what I mean? We go live and then you get sound problems. Sometimes you get information problems because you're live. You're speaking live. Okay. But there are certain things that we are absolutely not mistaken on. And we will not stop talking about these things, despite how uncomfortable it makes the wider Muslim masses, because these topics here are the most important topics to talk about, while we still have the ability to do that. Okay, we will not stop talking about the wickedness of racism, the absolute devilishness of racism, and we will not stop talking about white supremacy in all of its parts. With the situation of Imam Jamil, that particular situation, you are talking about a person who is a political prisoner from people who have a history of murdering anybody, imprisoning anybody who just has the ability or shows signs of leadership within the Black community. And they know this and they recognize this, and they immediately try to cut off the legs of any grassroots movement within the Black community. However, the biggest threat, as documented by these people, you know what it is? Y'all know what it is. They are telling you what the biggest threat is. They are telling you that the biggest threat to America is a Black Messiah. The biggest threat to America is a organized Islamic movement, especially in the Black community. They are telling you this. So before you even get started, they are working to make sure that it never reaches any momentum. However, فَإِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُ كَيْدًا وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. Okay? So they plot and plan, and Allah plots and plans. Nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah. These folks, when we say that America, we heard that, Imam Jamil, some of y'all saw the photos of Imam Jamil with the the cancer or whatnot. But the truth is, America itself is a stage 4 cancer that is in stage 4 cancer. They have never had a history of bringing good throughout the earth at all. Where are these countries that America has landed talking about, oh, thank you, America? You know what I mean? Never. All they do is bring death and destruction on the guise of spreading freedom and democracy. And their days are absolutely numbered. Remember, yesterday we talked about the Idda, and the signs of the Idda are present and vibrant. So what we're going to do here, if y'all are listening while we're cooking and stuff, let me see. Can y'all see the book? I don't know if you can. Let me pull it back here. Right? Okay, there we go. This is Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, the imprisonment of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Okay? We are going to read some things from this book. Okay? Imam Jamil has pretty much spent a good majority of his adult life in prison because of these demons, these devils. If you expect justice from them, you have these Muslims running around talking about, oh yeah, Trump is good, don't worry, and I'm happy and all kind of craziness, madness, and they won't even get checked. People interviewing these folks, they won't even get checked. I want y'all to think about that. It's the month of Ramadan now. Where are these folks to tell the reality of the situation instead of rinsing the ears of foreigners and immigrants? Policy is not public relations. They're two different things. You have entire public relations teams all over the internet. It's very obvious to me, anyways. Because we out here, we're black in the West. We know all about infiltration. You can't tell me nothing. We know what they look like, smell like, talk like. We understand that. Infiltration today is not the same as infiltration in the past. Infiltration in the past was about spying and causing dissent within the ranks of certain groups. Infiltration today is about manufacturing consent within those very same groups to sign off on these wicked, evil, white supremacist political entities. That's what it's about today. So they will wear a thobe. They will come to you with a beard and eloquent speech and tell you insane madness while being interviewed by the biggest YouTube channels without being checked ever. Imam Jamil, he is somebody who is a political prisoner, not just for speaking out against injustice, not just for standing up for the truth, but his ability to mobilize Black people in a fashion that is poetic, like it's like poetic organization. The threat of a Black Messiah. So we're going to read from this book here. Okay. And the chapter is called The Ghost of COINTELPRO. If y'all know what COINTELPRO is, just put it in the chat. Okay. What is COINTELPRO? Because we're not going to describe it here. Before we even get into that, let me just show y'all something. All right. Before we read from the book. So I want to show you real quick. One second, y'all. So this is William Ramsey Clark. He's a former attorney general. Okay, he was born in 1927 and he died in 2021. Okay, he was an American lawyer, activist, and federal government official, a progressive New Frontier liberal. Occupied senior positions with the United States Department of Justice under Presidents John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, serving the United States Attorney General from 1967 to 1969. Previously, he was a Deputy Attorney General from 1965 to 1967. So you're talking about he is there in the height of the civil rights movement. Okay. As Attorney General, Clark was known for his vigorous opposition to the death penalty, aggressive supports of civil liberties and civil rights, and a dedication to enforcing United States antitrust laws. Clark supervised the drafting the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Civil Rights Act of 1968. So this person is very important. Very important. His name is William Ramsey Clark. So y'all are probably wondering, like, y'all can Google him, okay? Y'all can Google him, right? If you don't know. So you're probably wondering, why are we talking about William Ramsey Clark? He's an important figure, mind you. An important historical figure. Most of y'all probably don't know, probably never heard of it. It's fine. It's because we don't really pay attention too much to the attorney generals and stuff. But he's a lifelong lawmaker. Okay. So look here. Let me show y'all something. Okay, so we're reading from the book now. The gatekeepers of the state have one image of the man formerly known as H. Brown, but theirs is not the only image. When this writer posed a question to former U.S. Attorney, what's his name? Georgia Attorney General Ramsey Clark, the same person we're talking about right now, in a press conference in the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., not long after the trial had ended in 2002, Clark's response was immediate and straight to the point. Okay? Listen to what he said. This is William Ramsey Clark. Okay, he's saying this. Listen here. Let me first say, I remember Rap Brown well from the 1960s, and I thought he was a splendid human being and a leader of the civil rights movement with a strong touch of nobility and commitment. I remember when Congress passed the H. Brown law just to try to get people like him, and finally he was indicted under the law that he honored with his name. Somebody look up the H. Brown law, okay? Somebody go look it up, okay? Remember, we are the ones who told you that they make laws that benefit them and oppress us. They make the laws. They make the laws for that specific purpose. You got people like Abdullah Andalusi making 3-hour lectures talking about whatchamacallit, critical race theory is Marxism. Is William Ramsey Clark a Marxist? But that's not all, family. You can't make this stuff up. All these white supremacists all over YouTube, all over Instagram, calling themselves da'is, telling the world that they are da'is, calling to Allah, but all they are doing is calling to the religion of the devil. Racism. The original sin, the real original sin. This is what they call the people to. Daniel Hekikuchu, Abdullah Andalusi. They never met a cracker they didn't like. You got Muhammad Hijab inviting white supremacists to his channel. Jordan Peterson. You got 5 Pillars inviting Mark Collette to his channel. You got Eddie from the Dean Show. Rubbing baby oil all over his belly for Andrew Tate and Donald Trump. And they out here telling you that CRT, critical race theory, is Marx. That's what they're telling you. But wait, there's more. We're not done. This was 2002, family. He said this. I want y'all to listen. Listen and listen well. Okay? This is not even a big part yet. We're getting to the big part. The aforementioned response from a man who once occupied the highest law enforcement office of the land reflects another image of the controversial figure. As Professor Clark and I departed the press conference and that day, engaged in looking back in history conversation, he had more to say about the man evolved into personality known today as Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin. Comments that would echo to the second part of his response and a question raised earlier that the conference regarding the connections between the case of Imam Jamil and the so-called war on terrorism, 2002, and mounting civil rights liberties concerns in the USA. Now this, I want you to listen to this and listen well. If you need to clip this part, okay, clip it. 1 second. If you need to clip this part, clip it. Listen and listen well. Clark stated, and I'm quoting Clark from the book, okay? There can be no question that the United States government, through its intelligence agencies and most of its appointed leadership and a great deal of its elected leadership, considers Islam, not just militant Islam, but Islam, to be the greatest threat to the domestic and international security of the United States. This white man said that. This is what we've been saying from jump. I don't know how long. We've been saying this from jump. And we've been saying that because we understand this and we know this and we know the history of these demons and how they work and how they operate, we know for a fact that a lot of your YouTubian elites, they are either overtly or covertly, intentionally trying to market Islam as an alt-right movement. We know this for a fact. And we also know that with Imam Jamil Al-Amin's his imprisonment, his political imprisonment, we know the history of these demons. We know very well that they wholly and fully intend on keeping an innocent black man in jail for the rest of his life to send a message to anybody else who thinks they have the audacity to stand up as a competent black leadership, especially if you are pretending to, if you're claiming to be Muslim, especially if you're claiming to be Muslim. So if you are wondering why your alleged leadership either seems impotent or incompetent, this is the reason why. And Imam Jamil, he is the litmus test for Muslims in the West. He is the litmus test. What do you mean, Bilal? And not just the Muslims, black folk in general. He is a litmus test. Because if you can allow for this man who was given so much for his community, and you can't even say anything about him rotting in jail, you can't even say anything. You can't even speak out against the injustice, bare minimum. Then you're not serious. You're not a serious person about injustice. You're just not. He's right there. He's there in our midst. He's still alive. If you look at some of our heroes of the past, right? Sheikh Islam, for example, Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah died in jail. The people at his time, they didn't really appreciate him like that. It was people that came after, okay, that came after that were, savvy to his message, privy to his messaging, that made his messaging successful. If you wait on this issue of Imam Jamil, all you're doing is delaying your own justice. Now, we don't know, of course, because from the color of Allah, We don't know whether or not Imam Jamil will be out of prison or not. We don't know that. But I don't believe, under any circumstances, that the pharaonic states of America are all powerful. I don't believe that. As a matter of fact, I believe that with all of the technology and weaponry and ability to coerce through dubious monetary actions and the carnage that they spread throughout the earth, it's my belief that when Muslims finally wake up, that their end will come through the very thing that they were trying to prevent, and that is Islam. That's what I personally believe. That's my personal belief. And that won't happen. That will not happen until two things, in my humble opinion, have to happen. Right? The first thing that has to happen is that these immigrant Muslims, the immigrants, they have to renege on their unending, undying, unrelenting love for Zadie. They have to renege on that. I mean, it's totally insane, this weird love that they have for Zadie, when Zadie was the one who made them refugees and immigrants to begin with. The other thing that has to happen is that black imams need to deal with issues in their own community. That needs to be front and center. Not making general advices for the wider Muslim community. That don't even make no sense. Even the wider Muslim community don't make general advices for the wider Muslim community. Every other people group has their own imams dealing with their own issues in their own communities. We are the only ones that run around here thinking that we got to help everybody. We can't just help ourselves. Like, what is the point of that? Even Allah in the Quran, li ilafi Quraysh. Okay. You can't tell me nothing, man. Allah in the Quran, li ilafi Quraysh. What was the Prophet's tribe? Was it not Quraysh? For the protection of Quraysh. You are supposed to exploit the Quran and the Sunnah to benefit yourself, your family, and your people. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And it's a type of cowardice when you see all these problems going around in the black community, all these issues. But instead of dealing with those very pointed, specific, and dangerous issues, you want to talk about some mundane thing that's happening in some other country somewhere. How many years have we spent talking about, the situation of, for those who don't know, Ali Hassan al-Maghribi, like he affects the black community somehow. How many years we spent on that? We have Imam Jamil Al-Amin right now in our midst, alive. We owe Imam Jamil Al-Amin a debt of gratitude for all the work he put in. Did any of y'all imams get laws made in your name in order to have you arrested? Come on, y'all. That is bravery. That is chivalry. If you believe in Allah and the last day, and you believe that Allah's book is the solution for mankind, then exploit the book to be the solution for mankind. And you have to start with yourself and your family and your community first. Let's go back to Dr. Omar Suleiman, family. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, family. One second, let me pull this up.
We have to remind the people of doing so, then we would have done our part. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses that He's scared. But dear brothers and sisters, Allah series, it has some of the most powerful voices in America testifying to the role of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, to the role of people. What right does a community have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help if we abandon these people while they're still alive in our midst? What makes us deserving of the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we're facing all forms of transgression and all forms of threats, whether it's domestic or foreign, about our community, when we abandon our own as they are in prison cells all around us and framed with crimes that we know that they did not commit? What right do we have to complain at that point? And so when someone says, well, what are you going to get out of a Dr. Afia Siddiqui after the trauma that she's been through? Even if it's 2 days before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes her soul from this earth, I pray that while she's still our responsibility as she's in that prison, she's our responsibility, that she gets whatever is left of her life with her family here. I don't care what her mental state is. I don't care what her physical state is. At least she's in our care. As long as she's on this earth, we have a responsibility to her. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, for those of you that don't know and have not studied him, in the 1960s, when you heard the names Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X Al-Hajj Malik Al-Shabazz Rahimahullah, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton afterwards, and Stokely Carmichael and the Black Panthers, there was a man named H. Rap Brown. He was one of the most famous black leaders in America. He headed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that's famous obviously for its founding or its association with Martin Luther King Jr. He was the Justice Minister of the Black Panther. The FBI openly wanted to take out what they would call was the Black Messiah. There was a fear of a black leader that would be too charismatic and that would lift black people in America up to be able to overcome their condition. And so these leaders were targeted.
J. Edgar Hoover, he actually wrote that, had it in writing. And that fact remains until this very day. So don't let these, I don't know what to call them, man. Don't let these folks like Abdullah Andalusi, don't let these folks like Daniel Hagikichu, don't let these folks like Eddie from the Dean Show, Muhammad Hijab, Five Pillars, all these folks who promote white supremacy, don't give them no chance to breathe. And furthermore, make it a habit that you forgive each other. Make that the habit. To the very day that, when is the last time you've seen a black leader come up from the community, from the ground up, and get promoted? All your black leaders since the assassination of Martin Luther King have been leaders appointed and supported by the CIA and the FBI and all of these hostile elements against the black community. Now these very same people, they got white folks studying Islam better than, even a lot of, us who are actually practicing Muslims. They know Arabic, they know Quran, they know everything. They know everything, okay? And they call it, comparative religion studies, all kind of craziness, right? They call it all that kind of stuff. But what it is an attempt and an effort to distort and the messaging of Islam from inside Islam itself. And all we're seeing, in my humble opinion, all we're seeing 20 years after the Rand report is the fruit of their labor all over social media. That's what we're seeing. Whether intentionally or unintentionally. But I believe that some of these folks are intentionally. I do believe, in my humble opinion, Harvard graduate Daniel Haqiqatjou is an intentional plan. I've always said that. I didn't say it off the cuff or out the blue or anything like that. Y'all know who I was, but those who know. My day ones, they know. Right? When we first started, we were like, we're saying he's pandering to white supremacy. We started out, because we didn't know much about him. Y'all were sending me stuff. You're sending me. Look at this. Y'all were saying that when I see what was going on, I was like, no, man, this dude is a flat out white supremacist. And then I started hearing him speaking about who he studied with, who his teachers are, what he studied, and with who and with what. I said, no, man, this is a straight up infiltrator. He's a straight up infiltrator. Exactly. Like the Qadiani movement at Bilal. Just like the Qadiani movement. Y'all believe that people can't infiltrate you. Y'all are silly. And that's why the messaging of the Quran and Sunnah is so important. Because if you have even just an elementary or basic understanding of the principles of the Quran and the Sunnah, and when people start speaking funny, you're going to revert back. You're just going to naturally want to revert back to the Quran and Sunnah. Even if you don't say anything, you don't have to say anything. There's 3 levels of jihad of the Prophet ﷺ. He said the first level is to change the evil by your hand. The second level is to change it with your tongue. And the third level is to hate it in your heart. And he said the least of those levels is to hate it in your heart. So maybe you don't have the articulateness to say anything. You may not have the ability to do anything. You might not say anything, you might not do anything, but you, at the bare minimum, when they start talking crazy, you're going to hate it in your heart. Because you understand that this stuff is wrong. This stuff is wrong. There's no way. You might not be able to be as eloquent as the other person is speaking. And even the Prophet said something, he spoke about eloquence. That maybe one of you, when I'm judging between a matter, one of you is more eloquent than the person that you're judging against, and he might make a wrong ruling based upon your eloquence, not based upon the evidence, but based upon the speech of the people. This is what we're seeing. Some of these guys are well-spoken, eloquent, and they're talking crazy. Because when you rip away the rhetoric, like I told you before, just rip away the rhetoric, rip away all the talking points and everything like that, and just get down to the meat of what they're saying. Even take time. If you basically soak up a lot of YouTube or whatever, don't make a ruling right away. Take your time. Just rip away all the smart talking points and all of the key words that they're saying, and what are they really at the end of what is the math behind the thing that they're trying to push here? What's the nitty gritty? What is the nitty gritty? It's crazy how much I like to talk about voting rights in the States. They don't mention Jamil Al-Amin since because of him, black voter legislation and implementation was put in place because of him. Of course. Of course, and people like him. Let's keep watching, y'all.
Targeted one by one.
I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Brown became Muslim, and Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and became a great leader of the Muslim community, formed an incredibly vibrant Muslim community, wrote books, talked about the transformation of his mindset, and he was targeted. And subhanAllah, this man has been in prison now for over 2 decades.
Indeed, Bilal, 100%.
Around 2 decades. And here we are, And there has been an effort now to reopen the case of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. I've spoken to him multiple times in prison. He sounds like a man who's never been to prison. And if there's anyone that can overcome the odds, it's someone whose spirit has not been broken by solitary confinement and America's prison system for 2 decades. And so I still believe that while he's here, if Allah Azza wa Jal answers our du'as for shifa, and he is certainly capable of doing so, then we would have done our part. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses that it's his time, then we still would have done our part and relegated that to Allah Azza wa Jal. But we cannot abandon these people to languish in these prisons. We will be asked about them. I want you to understand that there's nothing that is more similar to a grave than a prison cell in the United States, than people that dwell in solitary confinement. And they frame them with crimes that are not directly tied to why they are really put in these prisons in the first place, so that the community backs off from them. And the community gets scared. But dear brothers and sisters,
this is a major, 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 major problem, especially with immigrants. Y'all remember 9/11? If y'all remember how many hijabs and beards were cut and hijabs came off and all kind of stuff. Not because of fear of Allah, but because of fear of the enemy of Allah on earth. They took down their own buildings in broad daylight, demoed them in broad daylight, and then they blamed the Muslims for it. They killed their own people, blame the Muslims for it, so they can go and justify themselves killing millions of Muslims somewhere in order to have legislation put in for a never-ending money printing machine for weaponry and to steal oil. So the proper reaction to that would have been to stand up to these demons as much as you possibly can. Because Allah, he's giving you a chance now, right? He's giving you a chance. You know, the enemies of prophets, the enemies of the Anbiya, right, were never weak. Not a single one of them. I want you to think about every single prophet, story of the prophet. Can you think of a single prophet who had weak enemies? Just go through your mind. Go through your mind. Think about them. All the enemies of every prophet. Start with Nuh alayhi salam. Start with him. His enemies, were they weak? Were they weak people? They were making fun of him. They were despising him. They were gathering the entire community against him. Calling him all kinds of crazy and liar and everything. They didn't know what he was building. He's calling them to Allah. They weren't listening for 950 years. And they stayed on that. Look what Allah did to them. As powerful as they were. Ibrahim alayhi salam. His enemies, were they weak? One of his enemies, that king, Nimrod, I think it was, tried to, usurp his wife. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he himself, he started tripping a little bit. Okay, alayhi salam, right? Telling the wife to tell him that you're my sister, so he doesn't kill me to take you and stuff like that. But Allah saved them. Lut, alayhi salam. His people, were they weak people? Were they weak people? Go through your head, go through your mind. Musa, alayhi salam. Pharaoh, was he weak? Pharaoh, was he weak? Ayub, his people, were they weak? Isa, alayhi salam, his people, were they weak? The Prophet Muhammad sallam, those Arab tribes that he was making dawah to, that were the thrones, they're trying to stone him, they're trying to plot against his life. They boycotted him. They put him in situation, him and the Sahaba, this little few Sahaba that he had at the time, such a bad situation. They started eating leaves from the tree. Read the hadith. They started eating leaves from the tree because they couldn't find any food whatsoever. They eat the leaves from trees to the point where the stool was like the stool of goats. You know the stool of goats, like these little pebbles? That's what it started looking like. This is a hadith. These are weak folk. So Allah, He's giving you this powerful, powerful, powerful enemy. Probably the most powerful enemy in human history with these white supremacists. Okay? From the colonial European powers to America, whatever. Are they weak? Absolutely, they're not weak. Powerful. So where is the honor? Is the honor in submitting to the powerful enemy that Allah sent you? Or for standing up for what Allah has revealed in His book and the Sunnah? Where is the honor, family? Where's the honor? But not only that, there's never been a time when the believers, they remained firm on their belief and united upon their belief in the face of oppression, in the face of evil and wickedness, and they were not successful. Never. What y'all want to do, and we saw it in one of the lives we did, I think it was the live before, you will empower a devil for some short-term games, and then you wonder why. You wonder why you win the situation that you're in. Remember that dude, Palestinian dude, talking about, I will vote for Satan himself, or whatever he said. I'll vote for Satan if it means that it will stop the bloodletting in Palestine, because that won't bring out a bigger problem. Right? Because Satan, he's a peaceful guy, right? Satan, he's just, he's just a peaceful guy, right? So what Imam Omar Suleiman is saying here is so spot on. It is so spot. I can't even begin to describe how spot on it is. Okay? Absolutely spot on. If you're living and you're dying is for the sake of Allah, then what do you have to fear anyways? These folks who threaten to take a finger, take an eye, take a nose, and they do. They have no problems doing that. Taking your children, and they do. And they do. They do take your children. They have no issues of taking things that Allah has given you and they have no right to take. Who do you think Allah is going to side with? So your job here is to ask Allah for success and to remain firm upon Allah's revelation. Once you've done that, you're going to be successful. Whether they take your life, whether they take your children, your wives, all that. That's all that they can do. That's all that they can do. But Allah sets up all the powerful for the godly fall. He sets them all up for the godly fall. When they fall, you have no choice but to praise Allah. He says them all of that. Allah will make his name known with or without you. Look how these people, the same people, you notice how all these oppressors, they hate Islam. You notice that? You notice how all the white supremacists, how they hate Islam? Whether it's a Nazi, whether it's a Zionist, whether it's a Jordan Peterson type of traditional white supremacist. Because they understand that Islam requires them to end their oppression. So they have no choice now if they want to keep oppressing. Their only play is to infiltrate. Allah talks about this in the Quran. He talks about this explicitly. And he's not even making it like a whatchamacallit, hidden. He talks about the munafiqun. That they look like you, okay? They talk like you. They dress like you. But in their hearts are shayateen. They hate the religion. They just talking that talk. They lie. The biggest trait of the munafiq is lying. The devil is a liar, okay? You find folks lying day and night. Then know that this is the devil. The devil's a liar. They are okay. They are cool with the oppression of people. They're running around here talking crazy. Remember Tom Fakine? What did he say? Well, sometimes we have to suffer. Who is this we? We who? We who? Tom Fakine is a white man talking about we have to suffer. Talking crazy, no pushback.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us if we don't respond to these tests properly. They were not afraid, we should not be afraid, especially when we're advocating for them. This was a man that used to protest for the Muslim community, that used to do for the Muslim community, that was a vibrant leader and a historical figure in this country. And I even hear myself right now, and I keep saying was, and I have to correct myself because it's unfortunate that sometimes we talk about these people as if they're dead. They're still alive. I still hear his voice in prison. And subhanAllah, he's the one reminding about the ayat and the ahadith. And we had that moment where he called in and we were able to put him on the microphone here. And alhamdulillah, Al-Amin, he addressed this entire congregation through that phone. Even with the mass in his face, it was disrupting his speech. And he's still saying, alhamdulillah, I trust Allah, I believe in Allah, it's okay. And he's comforting those that are outside of the prison cell.
May Allah make us those who trust in Allah. And may Allah make us those who do not trust the enemy at all. Okay, family, it's getting close to iftar time here. Like, subscribe, share, and free the land, beloved. Free the land, free the land, free the land. Wa subhanaka la hamdik, wa shadu la ant, wa astaghfiruka wa atubu